I turned to home solar to lower my electricity bills. So here I am, 16 months later, with some real-world data and experience from owning that system. Spoiler alert, it's going great in more ways than I expected, and I have already returned £1,300 on that investment. This is the video I wish existed when I first started. Let's have a look at some numbers and break down how I got to this figure. In this video, I'm going to introduce my system and how much I paid for it. I'll talk about components and services I purchased to commission it. I'll also talk about generation stats and how much I exported and how much I used. Then I will move on to how much I really saved from my solar panels. I will talk about the reality of winter, something I did not expect to see in the same way. And also I will talk about an unexpected savings that I found from owning this system. Finally, I will look into a break-even point, the return on investment, and the future of this system. Alright, so when I built my system, I installed 3.87 kilowatt peak of solar panels on a garage roof facing east and west on both sides of a pitch roof. Just for reference, with this much power you can run the fridge, watch TV and boil the kettle at the same time. So what does it mean that I have 3.87 kilowatt peak? This means this is how much energy the solar panels can produce in perfect conditions. These conditions, especially in the UK, are few and far between. Therefore, the system doesn't really generate this much energy all the time. However, from my experience, I can tell you that the best I've seen it generate with that capacity was around 3 kilowatts per hour. There's a special type of joy in seeing that almost zero import month for the first time after you've commissioned your system. And this is how I felt in the first 3 months of owning that system. Well, this is the system I started with, but in May 2024 I upgraded it and I added another 3.2 kilowatt peak of solar panels. And I will talk about this in a later video. So now I have installed 7 kilowatt peak of generation capacity. Alright, let's have a look at how much I paid for this system. My total so far is around £9,000. This includes all the equipment I bought, all the tools I bought to do the job, some of which are quite versatile and pricey, and also money I spent on hiring professional electricians and paying fees for registering for export to Octopus Energy. If you're building this system today in the UK, you would pay much less than that. £1,783 cheaper today. And the reason for the higher cost I paid is because in 2023, when I was first building the system, the price of components was nearly triple of what we pay today, for example for solar panels. Inverters did drop noticeably, and other things like mounting equipment has also dropped in price. Alright, so let's look at some stats. I will break down the numbers, I will show you each of the individual components, and then I will show you the total figure of savings. Okay, before we go into that, there's one more important detail. The system I use is grid tight. This means I'm still using energy from the grid, but I'm supplementing that with energy that my solar panels and my batteries produce. With that in mind, let's have a look at how much energy did I buy from the grid. These red bars represent how much energy in kilowatts I bought every month. As you can see, in the summer months when the sun is abundant, I'm buying much less energy than in the winter months. What would this graph look like if I didn't have solar panels? Here's what this looks like in exact numbers. The green bars represent how much solar energy I used to supplement my home usage every month. You can see the summer months, again, I'm using quite a lot more because the solar panels generate much more in that time. Okay, so the amount I saved from my bills by using energy from the solar panels equates to £858 so far. And this is not all, because I mentioned earlier that my system is grid tied and I can export. When I first built the system in 2023, this wasn't possible, but later on in November 2023 I discovered that I could actually register my DIY system for export, and I did that. Here are the numbers. Blue bars represent how much energy I have been exporting to the grid, and for that I have been paid a fixed price of 15p per kilowatt hour. So far I have made £284 for the export. It's very obvious that winter is extremely low compared to the summer generation. This was not the same on the stats I looked at initially when I was doing the research. So what happened? Why is my system different? Well, this is something I discovered that I call the reality of winter. Where I live, the sun at winter is so low that even buildings that are far away from where I am are casting shadow in the beginning of the day. so I'm losing precious hours of generation in the winter sun. This is something I did not expect, but I am living with it now. Nevertheless, there's a silver lining. Alright, so now comes the interesting part. There's an unexpected saving that I also got from that system. And this is by charging the battery in winter on cheaper electricity at night and offsetting the daily expensive prices with that. From this, in the darker months of the year, I have saved around £200 in energy bills, and I'm only scratching the surface here. If I went down and optimized this for a better tariff, I could look into an EV tariff that offers significantly cheaper prices in the night, and with a big enough battery, I can charge it and offset my full consumption during the day, and thus save even further in the winter months. Okay, so what have we got so far? We have roughly around £200 from the battery charging, we have £280 from export, and we have £858 from replacing home energy use with energy from the solar panels. So in total, we're talking about around £1,300. Let's look at the return on investment. Before we dive into concrete numbers, there are a couple of things that I want to point out here. Prices of energy go up and down. For example, my model includes the months of June, July and August in 2023, when the price of energy I was buying from the grid was nearly 50% more expensive than the energy I buy today. Having a home solar energy system is just a hedge against these price hikes. In 2022, in the UK, we saw 400% energy price hikes. With all that said, I estimate that my return on investment for this system is going to be between 8 and 9 years. What's the future of this system, and why do I think I'm gonna still own it 9 years from now, and maybe even more, to actually make a benefit from it? The future looks electric. There are government incentives where gas boilers are being replaced with heat pumps, and there's a noticeable push to move away from fossil fuels. Solar energy is going to be an essential part of the energy mix I use at home. And the way I see this system is, chances are I will be upgrading it and expanding it to introduce more solar panels and add more capacity to that system, especially when I move to use a heat pump. This is not going to happen soon because my gas boiler is still quite alright. It works well and it's cost effective still. But when it dies and needs replacement, then I will probably be buying a heat pump rather than a new gas boiler. And this is where the solar energy will just come in naturally and fit into this whole system. I hope you found this video informative and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thank you.